Hey team, so let's get started with GitHub. You can see here that I have on the screen one of my recent examples of code. This is for the analog sensor state example that many of you used for a previous project. And you'll see, or you maybe have experienced that Makecode, this website, is not the best place to store your code. It will disappear if you clear your cookies, change to a different computer. It's not available. So we need a better way, and that's what GitHub is going to help us with. So this is the code that I want to save. This is just text, and so I can paste it somewhere else. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a repository in GitHub that lets me store all of this code. So to do that, I'm going to go to my GitHub dashboard. You can see it here. I'm going to hit New, and I'm going to name this Analog Sensor State Example. Let's see if it lets me do that. It does. And so this is my starter code for a state-based system that uses an analog sensor to change state. Okay, so simple stuff here. I'm going to make this a private or a public repository, and I'm going to add a README file because this lets you do a little more description in the program in the repository. And I'm going to choose a license. I'm going to say that the license I want to use is just the MIT license. And we'll talk a little more about what that means later on. Let's create the repository. Okay, so here we are. GitHub has helped me by adding those two files that I just mentioned. So this is my README file, and this is the license file that just says what the conditions are if you want to use this code yourself. So what I now want to do is I want to add a file to this repository that holds the code from the Makecode website. So I'm going to add a file. I'm going to create a new file. And in this file, I need to give it a name, and then I can paste the code down here. So let's just call it code.txt. So that's the name of my file. And then what I'm going to do is just take all of my code here and paste it in to this new file, code.txt. Okay, and once this is the way I want it, since I'm just pasting the file in there, I have this box down here which talks about committing the new file. And as you may have seen in the tutorial on GitHub, making a commit just means a formal save to the state of your file at a given point in time. So it gives a suggested quick description of this commit. I'm creating code.txt. If you want to, you can add an extended description. What I often like to do when I'm initially adding a file is I might say, this is the initial version of the file uploaded. And so for this, I'm going to commit this directly to the main branch. Use my school email address here. And when I hit commit new file, it's going to save that version of the file to the repository. So you can see now that that new file of code is located in the code page. I can click into that file and it will show that code. And so if I now want to use this somewhere else, I can just take all of this code and paste it elsewhere. And one other thing that I'll show you here is that with all of these, the repository, with all of these files in the repository, it will track changes to the code over time. And so if you look at, let's see, if you look at this, this actually says there have been 2 commits. The first one was the initial creation of the repository, and the second was creating code.txt and adding it. And so you have the ability to actually look at different versions of the code as it existed at different states in time. All right, so that's my introduction. It's now your turn to make your own repository.